This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing. Runway 7, Bravo.
All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made in this week. Now, as usual, I give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made in first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures, and then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made in. So let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Canfield could be the first example of an electric vehicle pushback. In the age of enhanced electric vehicle technology, Canfield has reportedly pushed back on a charging station. The report says that it will take between $350,000 to $500,000 to install 2 electric vehicle charging stations. Now, what got the story in is the fact that it is a reimbursement grant. That means they probably have to pay it back. Now, the question is why? Why is this grant reimbursed? Why do they have to pay it back if that's what the article is explaining? Now, even if they were to get the charging station, the money would have to come out of the city's general fund. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. Why does the Valley have so many big relationship and sexual abuse problems in major headlines? It's not good. Now, headed into 2022 and looking back at 2021, the Valley saw more cases of domestic violence, sex trafficking, and rape that the trauma may carry on into 2022. People can't seem to keep their hands to themselves. Touch yourself. Touch yourself. Safe. Touch yourself. One story about a local mother who stabbed her drunk husband shows that when it comes to relationships, we all may be looking in the mirror next year asking for some help in 2022. People are getting into some very, very tough situations when it comes to relationships. Now, going into 2022, there are also a lot of local people reconsidering their relationship choices. Now, I guess the key is to stay optimistic and to keep trying until you get it right. In the meantime, find something else to do. Big, big headline. That's what I made in this week. Did about you, I touch myself. Oh, did I think about you, I touch myself. Everybody's touching something. That's why story number 2 is such a big, big headline. Story number 3. In 2021, what effect did the social life have on crime in Youngstown, the city, the Mahoning Valley? Youngstown witnessed some strange things in 2021, and with every story comes a cause. That means something that cause an effect. Now, something had to cause someone to do what they did. The evolution of social media could play a part when connecting so many stories with the spread of grassroots and criminal activity that probably stems from online. Now, the question in 2022 is, did most of the problems in 2021 have something to do with people's social life and their social media life? Which there's a lot of evidence saying that it does. A lot of these movements start online. Now, the story that got this headline in is a story about a kid battling with a mental disorder. The kid killed his mother and asked for a hug. So there's a lot going on emotionally with people. Now, maybe there are some habits that need to be broken in 2022 to lead us into 2022. Maybe we need to maybe we just need to sit back and think about love and affection. Love and affection is what we need. Story number 4. Technology played a big role in the local business and education arena in 2021 locally. Now, what role will it play in 2022? Technology came up big in 2022 for the local community. Computer applications helped a lot of restaurants stay afloat during the shutdowns and open back ups. Zoom meetings increased, helped a lot of people meet. Schools resorted to online learning, and online retail surged also. So technology played a big part. Now, one Boardman program is looking to develop an after-school digital electronics program to help the Department of Defense with microchips. This is big. Now, the program will be headed by Shantae Burton. That's good. Now, if technology slowed down in 2022, well, if it slows down, I'd be very, very surprised. That's what story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5. Youngstown City Schools saw so many pivots in 2021 and has no clue how these pivots will affect students in the long run. COVID-19 made it hard for Youngstown City Schools to properly function in 2021. Looking forward, the city has found itself constantly in transition mode, trying to adapt to these transitions. Now, under the authority of an academic distress commission, the city is still searching for a working formula that has yet to be found. And as we head into 2022, let's hope that they do find a winning formula. Now, the good news about this story is that they do have a plan. So this is yet another story to look forward to in 2022. Story number 5. Story number 6. Drinking and drug problems may be another thing to leave behind in 2021. Headed into 2022, the stain of drug abuse and alcoholism left a lot of people dead in 2021. Drug dealers also found themselves stuck in a dirty game. Drinking and drug problems, even smoking, all dragged some people, even alcoholics and alcohol. All of this even dragged tobacco, alcohol, and drug companies into all of this mix. Now, at the moment, a trail of victims are looking for answers in 2022. Lung cancer, opioid overdoses, all types of stuff, painkillers. Now, this is yet another big story for the new year, and people will be looking for progress, some change. That's why story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Story number 7. Youngstown is tearing down with not too many plans to rebuild, and this could be a problem. Blight, fields of land that used to house Youngstown's family, and now more plans to tear down with little plans to build back up. Youngstown needs jobs and a better attitude and better people to make the future bright. The city has so many dilapidated structures that the city is literally fighting for a brighter future. Now, what the city is looking for are reinvestments back into the heart of the city. The city is also looking for graduates to come back and reinvest also. Now, this is another story to look out for in 2022. And at the moment, instead of building, the city plans to use $8 million of that COVID aid money to demolish 500 vacant properties. Story number 7 almost made the top this week. That's why I made it this week. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top local headline that made it in this week, headed into 2022. Number 8. What did we learn in 2021, folks? Headed into 2022, we learned a lot. We learned about division. We learned about crime. We learned about prosecutors. And we learned about elections, we learned about health, and even hidden racial tensions that magically came out in the mainstream locally. Now, headed into 2022, the biggest lesson we learned is that when you sweep something under the rug for so long, eventually it will hurt you in the long run or haunt you in the long run. Now, locally, we can only hope that in 2022 that there are better solutions to these problems. Love. So many people use your name in vain. Love. Those who have faith in you sometimes go astray. Love. Through all the ups and downs, your joy it hurts. Love, for better or worse, I will choose you first. Woo. Let's choose love in 2021 or 2022. Well, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines. Don't go anywhere. You're on the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, I remember it like it was yesterday. This is when, back in the day where, the church life was everything. People would go to church every New Year's, and they probably still do. They stay up to 24 hours to the ball drop waiting for church. And I remember, they were talking about that Jesus was coming. It was 2020 that the world was going in. And I had got ready. I was ready. Me and my grandfather and my mom, we had got everything packed up. I was ready to go. Ready for the world to come to an end. And we had went in there. And I remember church was packed. Brothers all over the place. Running around, catching all types of crazy. Just people acting crazy. Falling around, getting crazy, speaking in all types of different languages. I couldn't believe it. And then come 12 o'clock, nothing happened. We were still here. The world didn't come to an end, and Jesus didn't come. And this is what I had to learn. I got upset. So when the reverend got done preaching, I came over to him. I said, "Yo, can I have my money back, brother?" And he left the church. He looked at me, patted me on the shoulder, and he said, "Brother, I'm about my church business." Patted me on the shoulder and said, "Happy New Year," and left. I couldn't believe it. That's what I learned. That when you talk to a young prophet like that, and you tell him that the world is coming to an end, then you take the young prophet's money. Eventually, it's going to come back. And in 2022, I decided to keep my money and go buy me some new socks. Every new year, some new ties. And when the reverend come around telling me to come visit his church at 12 o'clock midnight so the world can come to an end and magically, deliciously, we can all be saved, I'd be sitting in my room by my own self, waiting for Jesus. No offense to the reverends out there, but it hurts when you've been waiting for so long and nothing happens. That's why in 2022, something new is going to happen. A new beginning It ain't coming to an end. I preach life into the world. Woo. COVID will go away magically. Folks, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Was 2021 the worst year ever? COVID-19, the economic hardship that it brought on, it may take some time to recover from. And the first wall that hit was the population growth. They said the population declined since World War II. The population it was stagnant. Nobody had a lot of babies. Now, although 2021 was not the worst year ever, it does rank pretty high up there. Now, with so many shifting attitudes, morale in America could use a boost. Now, some headlines in circulation are even spreading news about Civil War surveys. Now, although I don't believe that this will be the case when you talk about civil wars, but it just shows you how crazy of a year that 2021 was. Gun violence was put on notice, foreign relations soured, and some big countries that we used to be buddies and married to somehow want a divorce. Now, more people died in 2021 also, and domestic issues flooded the airwaves with an insurrection that hit the White House in Washington, D.C. Now, we can only hope and pray that 2022 is a better year. That's why story number 1 crept in this week. Big headline. Story number 2, U.S. population decline during COVID-19. What does this mean? New data in about the ripple effect of COVID-19 is yet another story to watch headed into 2022. U.S. population declined. The U.S. population declined during 2021 during the COVID-19 saga shows that the virus has boxed a lot of people into a corner when it comes to starting a family. They're afraid or something is happening. Now, if this data keeps up, population decline during COVID-19 could be another story explaining the growing storm surrounding America's disasters. Well, disastrous blow that was the punch that was brought on by COVID-19, which they're having a hard time recovering, and we ain't getting a groove on, getting loose. Stick a leg, stake a leg. Jane Lane, that's what story number 2 made in. We got to get loose. We got to start mating, find love. Somebody to love. That's what I made in this week. Big headline. Story number 3. How will guns be used in 2022? America has a gun problem. The gun problem is so bad that people literally stole guns from the military. They're still stealing. Now, how guns will be used in 2022 is still unknown. In 2021, the mass shooting story stayed in circulations and ended with a headline about a California mall shooting. Now, what is keeping this story alive headed into 2022 is new legislation being handed down to curb gun violence. Now, good people don't want their guns regulated because of bad people. That's why this story is in. Now, that is what the debate is all about, and thus shows why this story is staying alive. Good people are getting beat up because of bad people's decisions. Bad decisions. That's why story number 3 made in this week. Story number 4. Ukraine and Russia are back in the headlines. Growing tensions in the East is yet another hot story to focus on headed into 2022. Russia is in more headlines after yet more conflicts with Ukraine. Now, as this story develops, Putin is basically saying that he is left with few to no options. Now, what is keeping this story alive is the fact that it has been in and out of the headlines for almost 7 years. That's why it made it to the top 8 this week. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with top 4, so don't go anywhere. You're in the media with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, I remember it was 2000. This is when they was talking about Y2K and the 2000 year rapture, all this stuff. Now I'm getting deep in today's show because I got some unsettled stories. And Prince came out with the song 2000, everybody on appetite. And Now, this is what you could fall into all these. They talk about everything was going to come to an end. Everything was just going to magically just fall apart. 2000. People just going to start floating up into the kingdom. But folks, nothing happened. It is 2022. About to be. And I got to preach a lesson on this episode of The Mediator. The top 8 news stories. I got to turn into a preacher to let you know that the Lord will not just take it all away. He has a promise to keep. So if you're suffering with COVID, you will be blessed with an insurance policy. You will be blessed with some medication reimbursements. You will be blessed by your taxes. And the world will not come into an end. There will be more life. Can I get a amen? Thank you, Lord. Pass the offering plate around. Keep the mediator fed this new year. Well, folks, that's my story. Let's get to it, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Is immigration reform dead? Headed into 2022, one issue that Biden ran on was immigration. Build Back Better was his plan. It still is now, but the fight is on after the deal was shot down by Senate Democrat Joe Manchin. Now, the multi-trillion-dollar bill has some immigration reform programs in it that got shot down. Now, with so much activity still taking place at the border, this is yet another story to look for in 2022. Immigration reform is yet another key concern for the public headed into 2022. That's why story number 5 made it to the top 8 this week. Big hit. Story number 6. What officials learned about releasing those with a felony record in 2021? Chicago is one city that is searching for a good prison release policy. Now, after dozens of felons were released out on bond and bail and other things that come along with that, reports say that the felons found themselves getting back into trouble and arrested again. Now, this could really make it hard for felons who have been pushing for a better transition back into society. Now, America's criminally convicted population is screaming for a better transition system, along with some help and equality. Now, many of these people, felons, find themselves back in prison over and over again. They find themselves back in this flawed system. Now, this is yet another story to keep an eye on heading into 2022, saying that Vice President Kamala Harris has experience as a prosecutor, and many are looking forward to her plans on criminal justice reform, if she has some. If not, we'll just put it back in the hands of the Republicans, who probably have a gooder, better, build back better plan. Blah, 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 blah. That's why story number 6 made it in this week. Big headline. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you in 2022. That rhymes. Whew. The federal government, story number 7, the federal government was busy in 2021. They really were. Headed into 2022, just about every businessman and investor will be watching what discussions are made by the federal government, what changes, interest rates, all that stuff. 2021 was a busy year for the feds, and the pressure is still on them to make some price adjusting changes that will help everybody out. Now, states have been beat up by COVID-19, and aid from the federal government spread throughout the entire country, all over the place. Natural disaster aid also put the Fed on watch because of the tornadoes and all the other stuff that happens in nature. Now, this is just another story that will be big in 2022 as we head into the new year. That's why story number 7 made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 8 at the top international headline and developing news story that made it in and headed into 2022. Let all your troubles be forgot and find someone to hug. Story number 8, the top last story of 2021. What did the U.S. learn in 2021? What did we learn? We are seeing the ripple effect of trade policies handed down by the Trump administrations. We saw that. We're now seeing these policies shake up the business world and the connection with China. So some businesses are deciding to come back to America, but it's not at a price, at a lower price. Now, what we also learn about the energy, about all this is the energy business. And if it is time to make the transitions to electric vehicles, which many don't feel it's time, fossil fuels are just still needed. Now, watching inflation bust the pockets of gas prices, we also saw that. And energy independence doesn't sound so bad after all. Well, that was what everybody was talking about. But with all this stuff happening, with the gas prices going up, energy independence doesn't sound so bad. Now, we also saw the hit from the Keystone oil pipeline make news, halting some good-paying jobs and crushing the hopes of people depending on investments into this project. So once Trump got out of office, we saw Joe Biden halt this project, which really killed a lot of buzz. Now, there is also the border wall. Trump stirred up the crowd by putting America first, and he nearly got into some fistfights with other cabinet members and holders, losing, which later resulted in him losing his re-election bid in the process. So we saw that. Now, in losing that bid, the wall construction stopped and the pipeline stopped also. Now, if we learned anything in 2021, we learned that as presidents rise and fall, so do the people fighting for their piece of the pie and who voted for these presidents. We will begin 2022 with Joe Biden trying to fight for his Build Back Better bill that also put America in the same, will probably put America in the same position as the New Deal, somewhere similar if this bill gets passed. And that could be the strategy. Now, printing money with no clue how to make it back, and the deficit that we see, the ballooning deficit, proves that no matter who the president is, this one fact stands, and that is that America has a spending problem. So headed into 2022, let's try to get our finances on track, if we can, for the greater good of the country. And that's why Stern and Braid headed into 2022. That may be the biggest New Year's resolution that we all may have. So, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Headed into 2022, that may be our biggest resolution. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines, the media. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a man in the middle, the media, the mediator. If you want to show some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, folks, and have a happy, joyous, prosperous New Year. Go out with the old and in with the new. Have a good year, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning. Well, thank you for spending this year with me. I hope there's many more next year. Have a good week and have a happy New Year. Thank you for tuning to the media this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.